The Lost Generation. Despite taking place over a century ago, the Lost Generation shares many similarities with modern times. As a young man or woman during this period, one was met with war, a pandemic, harsh economic conditions, and shifting social norms. World War I was especially brutal for this generation, with over 70 million people mobilized and 8.5 million killed. The Spanish flu pandemic of 1918-1920 also took its toll, with an estimated 17 to 50 million deaths worldwide. After these catastrophic events came economic turmoil and the Great Depression in the 1930s, leading to high unemployment rates and poverty. However, amidst all of this hardship, popular culture began to rise in the form of early cinema and magazines as a source of distraction. This era also saw significant changes for women, such as gaining the right to vote in 1920 and widened employment opportunities for unmarried women who had become widows as a result of the war. The iconic flapper emerged as a new type of young woman in pop culture, known for her rebelliousness against traditional social norms and carefree party-going attitude. Despite their struggles, the Lost Generation is remembered for their resilience and ability to survive through difficult times, providing potential insights into future time periods. The World War II generation, also known as the Greatest Generation, is remembered for their bravery, technological advancements, and prosperity. Growing up during this era meant being exposed to new and exciting inventions, like the radio, telephone, and automobile. Culture and entertainment flourished, with literature, art, music, and cinema all thriving during the golden age of Hollywood. Films featuring gangsters, music, comedy, and monsters gained immense popularity and drew massive audiences. This time period also saw the rise of comic books with iconic franchises like Superman and Batman. In the music industry, jazz, blues, gospel music, folk music, and swing jazz were all popular genres. The introduction of radios in homes influenced many Americans, who would tune in to listen to President Roosevelt's famous fireside chats for updates on news in an engaging way. A total of 16 million Americans served in World War II, with 38.8% volunteering and 61.2% drafted for an average service length of 33 months. Unfortunately, there were approximately 671,000 casualties among U.S. soldiers. As of 2023, almost 120,000 veterans from this war are still living today. The silent generation grew up in the aftermath of World War II, with their parents having witnessed the fall of Nazism and the rise of communism. Unlike previous generations who fought for change, these children came of age during a time when the social order was in shambles due to the Soviet Union's betrayal of post-war agreements. For the next 50 years, global powers would face off in a tense standoff. The silent generation believed in working within the system and keeping their heads down. They were heavily influenced by the golden age of radio, the rise of trade unions, and advancements like transatlantic flight and penicillin. Many got married and had children at a young age, and their cautious attitude towards taking risks would later be criticized by more radical future generations like the baby boomers. Now here we are, the baby boomer generation. The baby boomer generation, born between the 1940s and 1960s, is one of the most well-known and influential in modern American history. This period saw a significant increase in birth rates, with a staggering 76 million births taking place. The strong post-war economy instilled confidence in Americans that they could support larger families, and this group became a key marketing demographic for various products targeting their age range. Technological advancements, such as plastics, television, magnetic tape, transistors, integrated circuits, and lasers, further improved the overall standard of living during this time. The cultural landscape also experienced a boom, with popular music artists like the Beatles, Bob Dylan, and the Rolling Stones dominating the scene. However, it was not all smooth sailing, as major political discussions took place around topics such as the sexual revolution, civil rights, nuclear weaponry, ethno-cultural diversity, and environmental protection. This generation was known for being more radical and often favored left-leaning social causes over traditional conservative thinking. These differing perspectives led to intense debates and sometimes violent protests, especially during the Vietnam War. As a result, the United States became increasingly divided, and government distrust rose in subsequent generations. Generation X, also known as the latchkey generation, was marked by children returning to empty homes after school and needing to use a key to let themselves in. This was due to factors such as free-range parenting, rising divorce rates, and more mothers joining the workforce and utilizing childcare options outside of the home. Born during a decline in birth rates caused by the introduction of the birth control pill in 1960 and the legalization of abortion in 1973, Gen X was still culturally diverse due to the Immigration Act of 1965. The music scene during this time saw an increase in alternative rock, hip-hop, punk, post-punk, and heavy metal bands. Technology also flourished with companies like Apple, Commodore, and Atari, competing for the market and video games becoming popular with arcades across the country. Compared to baby boomers, Gen Xers were more educated as college enrollment increased. Individualism and entrepreneurship were defining traits of this generation, leading to the creation of companies like Google, Wikipedia, Amazon, and YouTube in the 90s and early 2000s. The generation known as Millennials, or Generation Y, was the first to grow up with access to technology like the internet, mobile devices, and social media. They are often referred to as the first global generation, connected to the entire world through technology. However, despite their connectivity, they may also be considered one of the unluckiest generations due to slow economic growth since entering the workforce and dealing with high levels of student debt and childcare costs. This generation was born during a time of declining fertility rates and tend to have fewer children than previous generations. Millennials have also been criticized for having lower rates of sexual activity compared to their predecessors at the same age. In 2010, the unemployment rate in the United States reached a record low of 19%, contributing to an increase in youth poverty and many living with their parents. Additionally, millennials are generally less religious than previous generations, but many still identify as spiritual. This generation has experienced significant events such as 9/11 and the beginning of the war on terrorism, which have shaped American culture. Despite their economic struggles, millennials are known for their digital fluency, diverse perspectives, and strong social consciousness. They are highly active socially and politically, and unafraid to use their voice. Surprisingly, despite their financial challenges, most millennials feel confident about their finances, showing their generally positive outlook on a complex world. The Generation Z, also known as Zoomers, share many characteristics with millennials. However, there are some notable differences between the two generations. While millennials were introduced to the internet and smartphones during their formative years and had to quickly adapt to a rapidly changing world, Zoomers were born into it. Growing up in an era of social justice movements, divisive politics, and constant technological advancements has shaped the worldview of Zoomers in unique ways. They have been exposed to a constant stream of information and entertainment through apps like YouTube and TikTok, which also heavily influence their values and behaviors. This generation is fiercely independent, embracing the entrepreneurial mindset of Gen X thanks to opportunities in freelancing, gig economy work, and remote jobs made possible by technology. Social media has transformed how culture is influenced, with individuals having just as much power to gain attention as traditional media outlets. This has led to new job prospects in social media content creation and influencer marketing becoming more desirable than traditional employment options. Additionally, iconic cultural phenomenons like SpongeBob have shaped the identity and humor of this generation more than anything else in recent history. The younger members of Generation Alpha, also known as the pandemic generation, are currently being raised mostly by millennials, making it difficult to predict their future. Growing up in a world dominated by technology and experiencing the pandemic at a young age, this generation is often referred to as the iPad kids for their technological savvy and independence. They spend less time with their parents compared to previous generations and face challenges such as mental health issues, misinformation, and political polarization. As they enter adulthood in the 2030s with an average lifespan of 83 years, it's uncertain what obstacles they will encounter and how they will shape the world around them. Don't forget to like if this video helps you in any way. I'll be making similar videos, subscribe to see them.